If you're a high school age volleyball player wanting to make a massive vertical improvement, the first thing you need to understand is what is the commitment level like so you can make a massive improvement. Like, how often do you need to be training, and how is it affected whether you're in season, the off season, you have tournaments? And that's what I'm going to be breaking down in this video. But before I dive into things, I want to introduce myself. I'm Coach Reid, and for the past 14 years, I've been helping volleyball players jump higher and gain strength intelligently. Okay, so you're a high school age volleyball player and you want to touch higher on your spike touch. Well, you just want to jump higher in general, right? So first, we need to understand how frequently you need to work out. So volleyball players in high school, generally your volleyball schedule is really scrambly throughout the year, okay? So say you're in club season right now, right? And say your team practices 3 days per week. On weeks where you just have practices and no tournaments on the weekend, you need to be working out at least 3 times. Like, you got to get 3 workouts in. They don't need to be super long, at least 45 minutes, but you need to be training at least 3 times per week. On weeks where you have tournaments, work out twice per week. One on Monday and one on Wednesday. Well, it doesn't have to be Monday and Wednesday, but it's better if you front load the week. So once again, when you're in season, work out 3 days per week. If you have volleyball, 3 or 4 or less days per week, but no tournament. And on weeks where you do have a tournament, just drop down to 2 workouts. So that's not a ton of time commitment, right? And as long as you're making consistent small weekly improvements on your exercise, you're going to be making massive improvements over the long term. But I want to give you guys a story. So when I was in high school, I was the short, skinny kid that didn't jump high. And when I was 16, I would have done anything to jump higher. So I started running 3 miles a day, and I started doing a jump routine on the cement. And I was doing this 5 days per week and ended up jumping 0 inches higher and developing patellar tendonitis. So although I was disciplined, I was, motivated, I was all these good words because I was working out 5 days per week, I was just doing all the wrong things. So I'm giving you this training frequency. I'm assuming that you understand we need to be training the right stuff, right? And then when you're in your off season for volleyball and your volleyball schedule is a lot lighter, then you want to be training 3 to 4 times per week. But to summarize, you are in season, right? You could work out at least 3 times per week if you have volleyball 3 or 4 or less days per week. If you have volleyball more days per week than that, then just do 2 workouts. On weeks that you have tournaments on the weekends, those weeks you drop down to 2 workouts, okay? So here's what a graph of a volleyball player that makes a big vertical improvement looks like. Volleyball's lighter, they're training frequently, they're making a massive improvement, they're crushing it. Volleyball gets busier, they're just doing enough so they can continue slowly improving but not burning themselves out. And then volleyball gets lighter again, they continue improving. Over the course of the year, damn, that's a big improvement. But what most volleyball players do that train is they'll work hard when volleyball's lighter, volleyball gets busier, and what happens is they stop working out. It just takes 2 weeks to start detraining your strength, and then volleyball gets lighter again, they start training again, but they're just making up the ground they lost, and then they start improving, volleyball gets busy again, and they don't really go very far over the course of the year. So one of the biggest things you need to understand is you never want to be taking steps backwards with your physical training. You never want to stop, but you just want to adjust the amount that you're doing, right? And so one of the biggest problems I see with a lot of high school age volleyball players is they're always dependent only to work with this one trainer once per week, or they have to go to this facility to train. The problem is you make your training too inconvenient. It'd be better if you could do some of your workouts at home and maybe go to the gym on the other day. But the first thing you need to do is make your training convenient, because if you're in high school and you just train 3 days per week at home, you can make a massive vertical improvement. You don't need access to these fancy gyms. Although if you have access to one, that's really awesome. But I'm trying to say the first thing that you need to understand is your commitment level, which I've kind of explained in the frequency. And then number 2 is don't handcuff yourself by making it so difficult to train because you'll only work out with that trainer in that facility. Make training convenient and even work out at home. Even if you just get some dumbbells, resistance bands, and some other tools, you can start making some really fantastic improvements. Now I'm going to give you another story. So when I was 18 years old, this is when I was actually maybe 17 years old. This is my final year of high school. This is when I actually started to have some success. And I started working with a professional strength and conditioning coach. And we just started making consistent small weekly improvements in my strength, my power output, and my jumping abilities. And for me, it took a period of 1 year for everything to change. So over that year, I gained 8 inches of my vertical jump. And shortly afterwards, I made the Canadian national team for beach volleyball. But I gained 8 inches in 12 months. If you divide 8 inches by 12 months, that's just 3/4 of an inch a month, right? It seems much more realistic when you can chunk it down. But I didn't gain 8 inches of my vertical in 3 months. No, it was over the full year. I was stacking small wins on top of each other. Now, here's the other thing. You got to understand, it's not the amount you train, It's, are we making small weekly improvements on the exercise, and are we training the right exercise? So let me explain this. So when I was 20 years old, I took a big step backwards in my training. When I was 20, I got pretty obsessed and addicted to working out. I just loved it so much. So I was working out 6 days a week, and I was just checking off the boxes. I'm completing all my workouts. Awesome. But what the problem was I was stagnant. I wasn't improving on anything. I felt sluggish in practice. And as soon as I went from 6 workouts a week and I dropped it down to 3 to 4 workouts per week, I immediately started improving. And the reason why I started improving again is because I wasn't always in this recovery deficit. When you do too much throughout the week, you're always trying to recover from what you did last. And then what happens is it makes it really difficult to make small weekly improvements on your exercise. So when I dropped down to 3 to 4 workouts per week, my energy levels were better at practice. And once again, I was able to start making small, consistent weekly improvements on my individual exercise. And that is the most important thing. You training the right amount per week, which I already told you, and then you competing against yourself on a week-to-week basis on making consistent, small, weekly improvements on your exercise. Anyways, guys, I hope this is helpful, and I hope you're now understanding how much I need to be training. And now I'll tell you a little bit more about what you need to be training. So when volleyball's lighter, you can do more athletic things in your training. You can do more plyometrics, you can do more speed work. Of course, you want to work on your strength. But when volleyball is busier and you still want to jump a lot higher, you're already jumping so much throughout the week. So you can't just add a lot of monotonous jumping into your training, or that's going to be how you're going to, develop an overuse injury, right? So when you're in season, it's really important you continue getting stronger and more powerful. And with things like plyometric exercise, you're just sprinkling it into your training. And you want to be just doing just the most important plyometric training, because there's this fine line between overdoing it, right? And so when you're in season and things are busy, keep your workouts shorter and only focus on the most important things, but make sure you're not overdoing the things you're already overdoing in volleyball. And then when your volleyball schedule is a lot lighter, you can add more and more things to your training, right? It can be more athletic, it can be more strength focused, you can go at it harder and harder. But the massive results are training optimally based on what your schedule is like throughout the year, right? And that's what I really help volleyball players with in the Vert Strength Optimization Program. Anyways, guys, I hope this was helpful. If you want to learn more how I can work with you one-on-one so I can help you jump higher and get stronger, safer, and faster, then just search for a link. There'll be a link below or somewhere. The first step with working with me is setting up a complimentary Vert and Strength assessment. During that call, we'll discuss your goals, your training experience, injuries, and then we'll discuss your Vert and Strength roadmap. Vert and Strength roadmap. Like, what's the actual process that you need to move through so you can get a lot stronger, jump higher, safely, and also effectively. Anyways, guys, enjoy the rest of your day. I am out.